from the field who joined us as expert panelists. And again, we have 4 sessions, 4 locations that we will discuss about today. And really from the feedback I've had thus far from many of my colleagues and peers from around the world is that this format is very interesting because it allowed us to actually get a real feel of what actually happens on the ground. For a number of us have been involved in this space for a long time, but a lot of that work is also done remotely, right? We help fund a project, we write policy papers, and we do all sorts of things. But we also realize that each of these locations is very unique. I've been involved in 300-400 of these installations over the last several years. And I can safely say no 2 locations have ever been the same. There's always something unique about a particular location. And I think the format we followed this year for CNX APAC, it gave us that opportunity to actually hear from people on the ground and see what the impact has been and will be going into the future. So I think this has been a great format. And of course, in these troubling times when we're still not able to travel as freely as we would want to, I think it's provided a great opportunity for us to be able to get a look and feel of what happens, but as well be exposed and hear from a diverse range of these networks, and not just from the Asia Pacific. We've had examples from outside the Asia Pacific as well, which I think has been great. Today is the final edition of CNX APAC for 2022. What format and form we come back in next year, time will tell. But I think this format has been quite interesting, and it's going to be a great session today with some. I should acknowledge that today we'll also be discussing one of our latest deployments that DEF and ISOC have been involved in from Zero Valley. So I'm really keen to hear about that because I've seen snippets. Obviously, I've been involved in shaping the project, but today I will also get myself to see what's actually happened on the ground. So on that note, Abner, back to you, and let's get on with this. Thanks.
Yeah, in fact, today we have one case study from Assam, which is a state in the northeast of India, one from Arunachal Pradesh, Zero Valley in Arunachal Pradesh, and we have 2 stories from the east coast of India, one from Andhra Pradesh, Chirala, and one from the state of Odisha. So I think, Pranita, should we go ahead and start the first one?
Sure.
We are going to Arunachal Pradesh, which is the farthest state of India. And in that entire Arunachal Pradesh, one of the most beautiful area is called Zero. And this Zero is not with E, but Z-I-R-O. Yeah, so we are going to meet Nani Monia, who has come up to take responsibility of bringing internet to the local community. And my first question to all of you is, please explain the local scenario, local ecosystem.
नेटवर्क के लिए हमारे लिए बहुत चैलेंजेस है, तो इन तक हमको इंटरनेट पहुंचाना बहुत आसान नहीं है, बहुत चैलेंजेस है, क्योंकि यहाँ पर ऑलरेडी जो आईएसपी है इंटरनेट, वो लोग भी यहाँ पर पहले से बहुत अच्छे से इंटरनेट इस्तेमाल नहीं करा पा रहे हैं लोगों को। यहाँ पर जो है इंटरनेट जो प्रोवाइड करा है मेन, वो एयरटेल ऑर्गेनाइजेशन, मतलब एयरटेल कंपनी है। जियो भी उसी से ले रखा हुआ है। अगर इंटरनेट अगर एयरटेल बंद होता है तो सारा सब कुछ बंद हो जाता है, कोई भी इंटरनेट का कनेक्शन नहीं होता। तो यहाँ पर लोग इंटरनेट को अब मतलब भूल से चुके हैं, मतलब थोड़ा थोड़ा आ रहा है, कर रहे हैं काम, लोग काम कर रहे हैं, मोबाइल पे एक्सेस कर रहे हैं। तो उनको काम करने का कि अगर कोई बेसिकली ऑफिशियल काम करना है तो उनको मेन जीरो में ही जाना पड़ता है सर।
So we are here in Myodiyasi. This is our center, and these are my students. They are just engaged with their painting work, I think. So this is our office.
Office and the center, beautiful location.
We are now connecting students. We have started digital training, computer training, for students, from 12 years to 24 years of age between, we have engaged them. We have engaged in. We are still registering students. for basic computer learning, and also the STEM project, STEM Maker 2. Yeah, we have some kits that provided by our organization, sir.
Oh, okay. So you are using those digital literacy kit called Start and Make Two,
Yes.
and which is basically allowing people to do experimentation and learning through experimentation, right?
Yes, sir, exactly, sir.
स्टूडेंट को तो बहुत बेनिफिट मिला है उसको ना, जैसे कि हमारे स्कूल में ये केयान है, तो उससे हम केयान चलाए, मतलब केयान चलाकर यूट्यूब वगैरह से एडिशनल जो सपोर्ट चाहिए हमको सब्जेक्ट पढ़ाने के लिए, स्टूडेंट को इम्पार्ट करने के लिए जो सब्जेक्ट नॉलेज चाहिए उसको हम यूट्यूब से टॉपिक निकाल कर दिखाया है उसको.
After installing Wi-Fi from your foundation, it was very benefited for our students. स्टूडेंट लोगों को अभी हम लोग क्या कर सकते हैं, जैसे कि ऑडियो विजुअल वगैरह दिखा सकते हैं, and they have more understand about some topic. And I thought that your foundation is doing very good work, especially for the needy people. पहले तो मैं ये विश्वास नहीं कर रहा था कि आप लोगों का ये जो फाउंडेशन, क्या फाउंडेशन, उसको कभी सुना भी नहीं था. तो इंस्टॉलेशन करने के लिए जब आया यहाँ पे स्कूल में, तो मैंने फ्री में इंस्टॉल कर रहा है बोला, फिर वाईफाई कनेक्टिंग कर दे रहा है फ्री में, वो भी एक एनजीओ का थ्रू. तो आई वाज नॉट बिलीव कि ये सही में हो रहा है ना क्या. तो बाद में अभी देखा है तो फंक्शनिंग, इट वाज फंक्शनिंग वेरी वेल.
एंड ये हमारा इरादा है कि स्कूल के अलावा जो छोटे छोटे झुग्गी झोपड़ी हैं, that clusters and even the tribal people who are living in the corners, our plan is to take the connectivity to them also into their what they call as their public space ना. उनका अपना छोटा सा चौपाल टाइप होता है जहाँ लोग बैठ के चाय पीते हैं, अपना काम करते हैं, लेडीज अपना सिलाई का काम करती हैं, वीविंग करती हैं. वैसा एरिया में भी हमको लेके जाना पड़ेगा, so that they can also get used to this and use it without problem. It's really very beautiful place. You all are very lucky that you are staying in such a beautiful place, and the idea to connect with the internet is to make you all feel that you are part of the global community and you are not part of just the remote community.
Yes, sir.
Thank you very much for your time, and we will connect again. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Bye bye.
All right, so that was interesting for me because, as I said, I'd been involved in shaping, the initial stages of shaping that project. And it's actually quite, I'm quite pleased to actually see it's rolling out okay. So I believe Nani is with us here, and let me put you on the spot, Nani, and ask you a couple of things. The first thing that struck me from that video was that that there is Airtel and other coverage there, but the problem is that it doesn't work. There's no reliability, right? And this is one of the things that I think we miss when we talk about infrastructure and connectivity. We can say connectivity is there, but does it work in the way it's supposed to work, right? And that's the first takeaway I had from what you did there. The second thing that was interesting for me was that the larger focus on digital literacy, and particularly seeing all those kids in the classroom. So could you perhaps talk a little bit about what sort of impact it's having on the kids and how they're finding it? Because, we keep on saying that the next generation is what we need to do all this sort of work for. And it was quite clear to me that the next generation is getting involved in the work that you've done there. So, and then perhaps a couple of other challenges and opportunities that you see as well. So why don't I shut up and you talk a little bit about what you're doing down there?
Yes, sir. Thank you so much. And namaste, first of all. So, yes. Sir, after this project work, I visited the 5 places, location where we set up the Wi-Fi internet facility. We go in a week, we go 2 to 3 times. We visit the places and whether the internet are going up to date and whether there are problems or not. we are always updated now. So they're enjoying, first of all, and they're really happy because they get updated by various facilities, and every students are enjoying, and they are getting the various knowledge now, and they're using computers in their center institution with the facility we have provided by our organization, sir.
And what's the age range of these kids?
Yes, sir.
The children we saw in the video, what sort of age range? How old are they?
Oh, yeah. From 7 years to between 26, 25. Yeah.
Okay. And are you also allowing them to just explore the internet on their own, or are you providing them is it a controlled environment where they can only go do study bits or things that you are allowing them to do, or they are also able to explore on their own to see what else is out there?
Yeah, they're exploring on their own too, sir. Yeah, and they're using wherever we have set up our Wi-Fi connectivity. Everyone is using, students, teachers, parents, elders, everyone, sir.
Okay. Good. And Amir, maybe you can talk a little bit about the infrastructure challenges that you've had. As I said earlier, that no location is easy to do, even though on paper it may look easy. But
yes,
when you're there, you have issues. So could you speak a little bit to that, maybe, on what sort of challenges?
Yes, sir. It was not an easy task for us. So first of all, after the office center, we have set up the office center. So we plan to, our first target was to put Wi-Fi facility on the 5 location. So in that case, first of all, we faced the communication gap, and in the communication gap, but they are conservative, they are very conserved in nature. So we brought out of their comfort zone. We convinced them. The convincing was a little bit tough for us. And after convincing them, giving hope to them, and that we are supposed to do a good work, for the betterment of the society here. So I showed them, and I promised them that it would go till years. It would go for a long time. You can enjoy the benefit we are providing now. So we have the convincing part was a little bit tough, and that the communication gap, and as well as there are no vehicles for we have a colony kind of in a village. We have a colony now, so only the main road is used for a local convenience. But in a colony, we have to use our own vehicle, or we should walk. So that was a big problem for us too, because halfway we have to walk, not halfway, but a long way we have to walk by walk. No? There was no vehicle. And or else we used to rent the local convenience. That one option we had. No? So we used to take rental, and the whole day we used to visit and do our work by that. And then we have faced, you can also join, and how we have to, it was me only at first, and then after I was engaged, later on I got one more person with me, Sushant Jha. Yeah, he came along, and he helped us. And after that, sir got to see him and his work. Now he did very well. So he helped us in our long project work. So you can also tell.
From my point of view, I would like to say that the most challenging thing was that to convince someone, because they have the very bad experience in the last. So many NGOs has come, but they don't give them just they gave the hope only. So never set up any Wi-Fi or internet. So even Amir was saying that there was a Gyan, which was I think installed in 3 years back, but it was still at the same, he was not running. So it's not getting any benefit to the students. So after when we came and we have tried to convince them, then they used to say that, no, it's just a fake one. But after we are established, we have set up all the things, then they was like, yeah, it's reality.
Yeah.
So that was a very big problem for me, and I have experienced what I have.
And also the weather condition here is so, we can't predict when it will get rain or, the rainy season come or
when the electricity will be gone.
Yeah, especially in the winter season, sir, would take a month. It would take a month.
And one of the challenges that I was remember that there was a ritual, like what to say, it's a festival, right?
Yeah, tapping.
Yeah.
Whether
where we have to be we don't have to be make any noise. So it was very challenges for us.
Yeah.
Because we have to be use hammer or many things to set up the wires, no. So but at that time we have that particular thing that I faced very challenging for me, because
we had to do it very, ekdam dheere se, na? We have to do it very slow. without any sound, we have to, set up.
Mostly people used to say that please don't make any noise, because if it will be going to be out of the house or school, then it will be going to be charges the fine for us. So it was a very challenge.
Yeah, it will charge fine, na? So that was the cultural problem we had faced, and the electricity problem. It would take months or weeks, and also our trust issue. Most important thing, trust issue. That convincing people and they would not trust us. Because of their experiences, exactly, because of their experiences, and they're very conserved in nature. That's why it would take lot of time to convince them.
Okay, so let me bring in Amir Rahman into the conversation.
Yes,
Amir, so what can, obviously Nani and Sushant have explained quite a bit about some of the challenges they faced, some social challenges, you could say, or cultural challenges, and of course, no doubt there's been infrastructure and other challenges. So do you want to spend just a minute or two, just describe it?
The biggest challenge there is to check the line of sights, like that is the valley places. So you can't connect one school to one school directly. So we need to go through hopings, and as Nani said, weather is the biggest challenges. Like sometimes it's fogs coming and sometimes it's rain is there. That time we need to check like that network is working properly or not, because water is the biggest enemy of that wireless link. So that is the thing. And also electricity is another issue, like she said.
Yeah, power reliability, of course,
yes,
is a major issue. And
it will take more time, and also the backhaul. Like if we are dependent on only Airtel. If Airtel is not working, we can't do anything. So, and they are getting internet from Arunachal, like Itanagar. Most of the time they have cable cut problem and something like that issues they have. So we need to fix that also.
So okay, thanks, Amir. I see my friend Jane. Yes, Nani. Quickly though.
Yeah. One more important point of our place. The things are the things are very expensive here. Very expensive here. The labor charge or any other material or product, particulars, anything. Everything is very expensive here. I think because of the landscape, or because we are in the hills now.
Right, yeah.
That's right.
Accessibility, yeah, indeed. So my good friend Jane is also on the call. Jane, thanks very much for joining us, and you must be doing the graveyard shift from the East Coast in the US. And Jane and I have worked together for over many years. So Jane, and I know you and I have had many conversations about these sort of things over the years, right? But again, you see the same sort of thread keeps on coming up, right? The same themes: reliability, local buy-in, getting local champions, dealing with the local cultural constraints, backhaul, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, right? So what are your thoughts? I mean, we've been doing this for 10, 15 years now, but yet, some of those problems never go away.
You're absolutely right, Raj, and hello, everyone. And as Nani and Ahmed were saying, it can be trust issues, it could be the backhaul. I was talking to someone today about community networks in Africa and also some community networks in the United States. It's the same challenges. Many people think the market will magically solve the problem. And as Amir was saying, with respect to Airtel, it's the same issue here with some of the providers. If you can't get the backhaul, you have troubles. Some indigenous communities in the United States were overlooked. And so they did not get spectrum. And so they couldn't even set up networks. And there were some changes that were made from the policy and regulatory side. And so I think, Raj, and it's great to see you and everyone, it really is about raising awareness. And as Nani was saying, also culturally, to make sure people don't think the technology, the equipment is bad, right? Or that the content that people see will be harmful. You have to be careful how you introduce the connectivity to certain communities, particularly those that have been isolated from it. And I will say that some things that we're seeing here in the United States have been surprising me. For people that don't know me, for years I worked with Rajneesh and others globally, and I've been focusing more on some communities that are digitally marginalized, meaning for years and years and years, they've been marginalized because it wasn't a priority for some of the policymakers and regulators. And now the communities are speaking out. And the organization I'm working with, Connect Humanity, is working really hard to raise the profile of the problems. And with that, sort of those voices that are speaking out, both on radio, in the press, and in the print magazines, and also online, of course, people are beginning to realize that there is affordability with these new networks, like the mesh networks you have, and with some small wireless or fixed wireless networks, or really cheap fiber. But I think where you are, Nani, Amir, and others, you can't bring in the buried fiber. It's impossible, yeah? And so you've got to find cheaper, better, faster ways to do this. And it's with some of the new networks that are being brought in. And that's what we're trying to do too, is show people that if the traditional market cannot solve the problem, if the Airtels, the AT&Ts, the Telecom Italias, these are the traditional operators in some countries, they don't have more flexible business models. They've locked into a specific business model that does not provide connectivity to communities like yours. And so what Rajneesh and Osama, Ritu, and others also on this call have seen is that you have to come up with new ways of developing and deploying technology. So these new networks, the community networks or community connectivity providers, are finding cheaper, better, faster ways to do things with the new equipment and with new models, and with encouraging kids to be online. So Raj, it's really exciting to see that there are more networks growing. And do know, those of you that are in very far away from me, and I'm very far away from you, that some of the challenges are very similar. Every community is different. And you have to listen to the local communities to feel what they need, but also to help them be sustainable locally. So I think, Raj, that's one of the biggest things. And as Raj used to say, it's with the community, by the community, for the community. It really has to be a local community solution.
Thanks, Jen. I'm being reminded that we need to keep things ticking along. So, because we've got 3 more to go, and of course, there'll be opportunity to discuss a little bit. I've got some of our other colleagues who I'd like to bring into the conversation, and as well pick a bit of Jane's brain later on as well. Abner, do you want to do a very quick summary for our audience out there from the communities who would maybe want to try and figure out what we've said in Hindi. And then straight after that, we'll move to another very interesting project, and we're going to go from the mountains to the sea. So there, if you could do a wrap up of this one.
Yeah, sure. तो अभी आप लोग सबने वो वीडियो देखा, जीरो वैली में कम्युनिटी नेटवर्क लगाया गया है जिससे बच्चों को फायदा हो रहा है, वो डिजिटल लिटरेसी क्लासेस चल रही हैं। तो नानी जो अरुणाचल प्रदेश में है वो बता रही थी कि कैसे जो कम्युनिटी है वहां पर उनको समझाने में कितनी दिक्कत हुई थी कि ये इंटरनेट आपके अच्छे के लिए है, इससे आपको फायदा पहुंचेगा। तो वही सारी बातें हो रही थी कि कैसे उन्होंने एक एक जाके लोगों को समझाया कि इससे आपको फायदा होगा, और धीरे धीरे देख के कि बच्चे वहां पर सीख रहे हैं, सब हो रहे हैं, तो वहां के लोग मान भी गए धीरे धीरे। और फिर आमिर ने हमें बताया कि किस तरीके से, चूंकि वो ऐसा रीजन है वहां पर कितना मुश्किल है इंटरनेट पहुंचाना, तो उसके बारे में बात हुई कि ऐसे जो रीजन्स हैं, जो माउंटेन रीजन्स हैं, वहां पर हर चीज का दाम ज्यादा होता है, वहां पर चीजें आसानी से पहुंच नहीं पाती हैं। तो इन सारी दिक्कतों के बावजूद वहां पर एक कम्युनिटी नेटवर्क सेटअप करने की वजह से जो फायदा हुआ है वो बहुत बड़ा है। और फिर जेन ने कहा कि कैसे हर कम्युनिटी जिनके साथ हम काम करते हैं, हम लोग एक मॉडल उनके लिए तैयार नहीं कर सकते हैं, हमें हर कम्युनिटी में जाके वहाँ के लोगों के हिसाब से और वहाँ के कल्चर के हिसाब से हम लोगों को देखना होता है कि वहाँ के लिए क्या सही है। तो वही हम देख सकते हैं कि जो DEF और ISOC का जो प्रोजेक्ट है जो जीरो में चल रहा है, वहां पर जो टीम है उन लोगों ने किस तरीके से वहां पर लोगों से बात करके और धीरे धीरे उनका भरोसा लेके इस प्रोजेक्ट को आगे बढ़ाया है और लोगों तक वो लोगों तक इंटरनेट पहुंचाया है। तो अब हम लोग अगले सेक्शन में चलेंगे, चिराला चलेंगे, ईस्ट कोस्ट पे जो है, और देखेंगे वहां पर कम्युनिटी नेटवर्क का क्या फायदा हो रहा है। प्रणीता, आई थिंक यू कैन स्टार्ट द वीडियो।
Chirala Fisherman Wi-Fi Community. Very good.
This is the smartphone center.
Okay, can you take a little bit of insight? So these are customers.
Yes, sir.
What are they doing here?
Aadhaar enrollment and banking transactions.
Go on.
And caste certificate, marriage certificates. Here, student communities, sir. They are using internet Wi-Fi. They are using for learning new things, and for study purpose they are using, sir. Sir, she came here for showing me. She came here for changing the PAN card details, sir. PAN card group.
आप किस लिए आए हैं इधर?
इधर मैं कंप्यूटर सीखने के लिए आई हूँ।
किस चीज का शॉप है?
मेरा है, खुद का है।
बुटीक?
बुटीक।
अच्छा, तो आप वो कपड़े का और अपैरल का डिजाइन सीखने के वजह से कंप्यूटर सीखना चाहते हो?
हाँ भैया, हाँ सर।
ఇంతకు ముందు నేను చీరాల రోజు
Sir, he told in previously he was go Chirala for using the internet and system work purpose, but now he is using Ruben Center for community, for using the online games or entertainment or learning new things. Everything purpose he daily came to Ruben Center and use our ISOC Wi-Fi network, and he is enjoying. He is spending some time with us to learning new things.
మేము ఇంటర్నెట్ లేక చాలా అంటే లాంగ్ వెళ్ళేవాళ్ళం సార్.
Sir, actually he told in previous here internet service is not good, sir, because it is coastal area. Here towers network signals also very low, so there is no proper network here. But after our ISOC project came here, everyone using internet efficiently. With the we have giving good service of internet. He is praising us, sir.
How many total average number of people come?
In the shop we have 200 members per day, from morning to till night. Wi-Fi service ka bhi 60-70 members came daily averagely to learn use our systems and internet.
తీసుకోవడానికి వచ్చాను సార్.
Sir, what he is telling means he this time bank is closed. But in Ruben Center, we have bank services of deposit and withdrawal also, sir. In the bank point also, till 8 p.m. tak, he is giving bank services.
Balance inquiry.
Balance inquiry, cash withdrawal, cash deposits.
This is the
Sir, this is the system, sir. We are giving the HDFC bank services. This is the biometric, sir. Sorry, this is the receiver, sir. From our tower ka.
Can you also see the tower from here?
Sure, sir. That is the tower, sir. From some long distance.
Namaste.
Namaste, sir. ఈ రూమ్ కాడ కరెంట్ బిల్ కట్టేది సార్ మేము దేనికైనా ఆడ వెళ్ళేది.
Sir, she told for every services she go to Rubin only. Sir, we already reached the Panchayat Bhavan, sir. See the our receiver, sir. Sir,
So you are from the Panchayat office?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I have been working as a welfare and education assistant, sir.
Is this internet in any way helping you?
Sir, definitely, sir.
How many people come for service?
Then,
village people.
For service, sir. For service, at least 20 or 30 will come, sir.
This is the building, sir. Inside the building, here is the system of connection. Sir, school was closed, but I will show our receiver, sir.
Okay.
Some children is playing games here.
Is the school using?
Yes, sir. Is the using our services also using, sir, here for digital classes and learning new things. Also, students using our internet services, sir, with free of cost. Okay, sir.
Oh yes, beautiful. Very, very beautiful.
Now we are going to the beach, sir. There also our receiver is there. This is our receiver, sir. Sir, can you see it, sir? Lighthouse ka near we arranged the one receiver.
So what is the reason of putting the connectivity here?
The reason is only for fisherwomen who are not aware of selling the fishes with a heavy cost, sir. They don't know how to sell the fish with good profits. They just bring from sea and just sold it, sir. But after they are using internet through YouTube, they just clean the fish and they cut the fish very professionally and they sell the fishes to high prices, sir.
Bye. Thank you. Really, thank you very much.
So again, another interesting location. And again, as I said earlier, we're going from the Himalayan mountains down to the coastal areas of India. And again, different environment, different local needs, but some of the fundamental problems remain the same. I just want to make a comment here. I hope everyone is able to follow what was being said. Obviously, it was in the local language, but there were subtitles as well. But, in India, for example, we've had the government introduce a whole sort of digital services. Everything is supposedly digitalized, from identity to doing things online to paying for things and whatnot. But the problem, of course, is, having all these policies is great, but if you don't have the processes in place to ensure that people who need to do these things have the necessary access, then it becomes problematic. And that's, I think, what we're seeing in a lot of these locations. Now, urban centers may be easier, although there are also challenges within them as well. But when you start looking at rural areas or underserved areas, the problem amplifies significantly, right? And you could hear just from what the local villagers were talking about on how they are facing issues. One chap couldn't even go to the bank because the bank was closed. But luckily, the internet center that we have there, they had a banking withdrawals and deposit system, so then he could get things done as a result. So when we talk about government or state policies, and when we implement all these digital economy-based policies, the problem is that, if you don't actually have the actual deployment on the ground to support those policies, it becomes problematic, right? And I think that's what we're seeing quite, it's a stark reminder in India in particular, where you have everything is supposed to be digital, but on the ground, the story is actually something quite different. So Amir, I believe you were involved in the Kerala work as well. So do you want to speak a little bit about what we just saw and some of your observations? You're muted, Amir.
हेलो ये सब सो वहां पे सर हमारा एक सेंटर हमने एस्टैब्लिश किया है जहाँ पे लोग कम्युनिटी पीपल्स जो है वो वहां पे आके हमारे सर्विसेज को यूज कर सकते हैं। वहां पे हमारा एक CIRC सेंटर है जहाँ पे बच्चे और कोई भी बड़े लोग जो भी हैं वो भी आके वहां पे पढ़ सकते हैं। हम लोग वहां पे डिजिटल लिटरेसी कोर्स प्रोवाइड करवाते हैं, हेल्थ कैंप कंडक्ट करवाते हैं और फाइनेंस सर्विसेज है क्योंकि वहां पे लोग जाके ना वहाँ पे बैंक दूर है। अगर जहाँ पे हमने सेटअप किया है वो वोडरेबू है, वहां से चिराला ऑलमोस्ट 7 किलोमीटर दूर है। तो उनको एक बैंक का अपना एक स्टेटमेंट चेक करने के लिए भी वहां तक जाना पड़ता था, जिसकी जो अब उन लोगों को वहां नहीं जाना पड़ता है। वो लोग सीधा हमारे सेंटर पे जाके उस चीज को वो कर सकते हैं। और उसके साथ साथ हमने एक पंचायत भवन को कनेक्शंस दिया है क्योंकि वहां पे इंटरनेट का बहुत ज्यादा इश्यूज है। जब लास्ट टाइम मुझे याद है जब मैं वहां पे बीच में गया था और मुझे अपने फैमिलीज को शो करना था वीडियो कॉल पे कि ये प्लेस है और क्या चीजें हैं वहां पे। सो मोबाइल सिग्नल्स भी वहां पे प्रॉपर नहीं थे उस वक्त। इंटरनेट का स्पीड इतना स्लो था कि हम वीडियो कॉन्फ्रेंस भी अपने घर पे नहीं कर पा रहे थे। तो उस वक्त मुझे लगा था कि ऐसा कुछ होना चाहिए। तो फिर उसके बाद विद द हेल्प ऑफ आईसॉक हमने वो सारा सेटअप वहां पे लगाया था ताकि कम्युनिटी अब इंटरनेट से बहुत अच्छे से अवेयर है कि इंटरनेट से वो क्या कर सकती है, किस तरह से उसको इस्तेमाल कर सकती है। बहुत सारी नई सारी चीजें वो सीखते हैं लाइक और उन एंटरटेनमेंट के पर्पज से यूज कर सकते हैं और एजुकेशन के पर्पज से यूज कर सकते हैं। कोविड के टाइम पे बहुत सारे स्कूल्स और कॉलेजेस जो है सब ऑनलाइन थे। बच्चे वहां पे हमारा ऑनलाइन सर्विस यूज करते थे, हमारा सिस्टम और हमारा डेस्कटॉप ये सारी चीजें यूज करके वो चीजें अपना स्टडी मटेरियल्स वहां से देख सकते थे सब।
So just for the benefit of others, Amir was speaking in Hindi, of course. Basically, what he said was that they've set up a community resource center within Kerala, and in fact, this location is just 7 kilometers outside of Kerala. There's a very famous beach, and where there's a lot of fishing community people who are in that area. And one of the things he mentioned was that, basic services are not available, right? For example, if someone wanted to check their bank statement to see how much money they have in the account if a payment came in, they couldn't even do that. They had to go, travel to the nearest town to get that done. But, with this, the problem has gone away. The other point he mentioned was that, even though there is supposed to be connectivity, and again, a very similar story to what we heard from the Zero Valley deployment, there are supposedly mobile signals and connectivity in the area, but once you actually get there, the signal is very poor and you can hardly or barely connect. And then, of course, during COVID, it was also problematic because kids couldn't go to school. So having digital literacy in place, but it was not just the kids, of course, it was all parts of the community who were making use of the resources available, because with lockdowns in place, it really affected the wider community. Okay, I see Rithu's on the call with us. And again, Rithu is someone who's been working with us for a number of years on multiple projects. Rithu, do you want to offer some comments on this? Because, of course, you've done quite a whole bit of research on this in and around India and elsewhere as well. So I'd like to get your thoughts on this, if you're there, Rithu. There you are.
Everyone. Good morning, everyone. And so it's nice to see everyone on the same panel, which I have been working, but for a year I was a part of on this. But yes, having said this point that the community networks in India or across the world have been facing a lot of challenges in terms of whether, as Jane mentioned, and as you guys are talking about, backhaul connectivity issues. And despite the fact we also understand that community have a rural infrastructure, existing infrastructure, but we are not able to utilize them optimally. We have been working in a different set of isolations, and we have been working some of the research projects which we have worked on, and we have identified that how different community-led organizations like radio stations, public libraries, even in India, like a Chopal can be used for for facilitating Wi-Fi services. And if I'm not wrong, that the PM1 is one of the concepts that has been facilitated by in India to utilize the utilize the infrastructure optimally, and those ones. So these are some of the facts that we need to understand, that internet is not the something which, or the connectivity is not the something that we need to have a specific infrastructure, but how to utilize this infrastructure optimally, and how to utilize the existing availability of local resources and local human resource, skilled human resource, in various methods. It could be a permutation combination of a radio station with the local skilled people who are working in this space, or it would be a handloom clusters where they are using it for their own archiving purpose or something of those people as well. And even connecting schools through the local network can also be used. So as Amir was mentioning about the COVID times, we have seen that in the COVID times, different local networks have used the different methods in India to provide the information and dissemination. Moreover, like connecting, like Odisha is a state where they have used entire radio programs are for design for the primary education, and they have distributed through the CR station. Similarly, those kind of a system has to be integrated through the local networks as well. And how we can utilize it on an optimal manner, that's the important factor.
Thanks, Ritu. I wanted to actually bring Fozia. I don't think Fozia is on the call at the moment. So anyway, perhaps she'll join us a little bit later, because she's been doing a lot of work on capacity building with women, for instance, and I really wanted to get some perspective from her, but let's see if she can join in later. Jane, if I could bring you in once again, and again, an old story that an old supposedly benefit of connectivity that I want to raise again. And, you know, if we cast our minds back to maybe 2 decades ago or a decade and a half ago, one of the reasons we said we need to get connectivity to people is that, you know, as in examples like the fishing community we just saw, where they could cut out the middleman or middle person and go direct to market, right? Same thing in the Zero Valley as well, although they didn't focus on that, but there's also crafts and things that are available there that, you know, due to the middle man process that has existed for, you know, literally decades or centuries maybe, people don't really get that price that they should be getting due to the various people involved in between. So, you know, we keep on saying that, you know, e-commerce and providing these sort of opportunities can change that. But, you know, sometimes I struggle to see how much of a positive impact it's had, right? Because yes, there are some instances where we do see that happening, but that big movement that we expected hasn't really quite worked out, right? Because for once, there's the problem with micropayments, right? As well as a whole bunch of other things. So some thoughts from you on that, Jane?
I was gonna turn off my video. On the payment side and using connectivity for businesses, it takes a while for that return on investment to come through. We are seeing, though, that there are ways to finance networks, and that's something that Connect Humanity, Connectivity Capital, the Internet Society, and the Association for Progressive Communications just released a report called Financing Locally Owned Networks. And it was inspired by the work that APC, the Internet Society, and others have done, Digital Empowerment Foundation, to build local networks and figure out ways of scaling, different scale for different economies, and ways that we can help finance networks and also create local sustainability for that scale. It depends on what the local circumstances are, and sometimes it's through grants or direct donations of equipment to try and figure out what the communities can bear at the local level to provide different local financing, or from outside financiers to come in and help sustain those networks to be more viable on the ground, feasible on the ground. But some communities have found ways to charge for their services. One of the hardest things that we're seeing is that the software costs are very high. It would be great to see if we can get the software cost down for some of these systems for billing. That may come much later in a community network, the billing for to return investment back into the network. So it's something that has to be discussed more and more at the local level on what will work in the communities that many of the people here who are in, and how they can get that return. And I don't know, it has been a challenge, let's just put it that way, across the world to find better ways to make sure that networks are financed. In some communities, they can raise funds through their governance systems, but in others, they've got to figure out ways to do reciprocal services. But as you're saying, Raj, it depends on local business. In Zimbabwe, we're seeing people use value-added services like computer services. As you saw with the fishermen, they had banking going on at that mesh network, which was really great to see. And I know that that's another aspect of the networking that's been put together in Zimbabwe. But what you can see in different parts of the planet is they're coming up with the local solutions that suit the local communities and the needs of those communities. And that's where there's more value that those networks can provide, whether it's connecting schools, a local bank, online banking, like small payments that go micropayments that would go back and forth. So there are really clever ways for the local communities to provide that sustainability. The report that was released about a month ago contains different examples from around the world of how networks are being financed and how communities can be sustainable. I'll put a link to it in the chat.
Thanks, Jane. And that is a good report, particularly if anyone's interested in the sustainability aspects of it. Please do have a look at that. It's quite comprehensive as well. And I'm hoping before we end up today, I'll bring a couple of us into a wider discussion on a couple of these aspects. And I see Osama's on the call too, so I'll bring him in later because there's been some work that's also happening, which I think would be useful. Whilst he was speaking about local needs, Jane, it reminded me that, this Chirala one, as an example, one of the challenges we had was the fishing community said, what do we need the internet for? And we've had this in many locations where we've gone into. And in Tamil Nadu, we did a network 2 years ago in Chitlingi, and same thing. They didn't really think they needed the internet, apart from sending a few emails or things like that. But then suddenly when you say, there is actually an application here. And then in Chirala, I was just reminded that, one of the things they are doing is, how to clean the fish properly, how to dry it properly, to learn from videos as opposed to, so it's not about just, sitting on YouTube all day and listening to music videos or learning the latest dance moves, but it's about, learning or improving the skills they have. There's also skills, of course, that these communities have that, the rest of the world can make use of as well. And, I think that also provides a way in which we can broadcast some of that out. So there is that, it's a win-win situation, but sometimes it's a bit difficult to figure out what the win is and how it actually makes a difference. Okay, so Abner, can I bring you in to do a quick Hindi summary? And then I'm trying to hold some of the discussion to the end, because I think there's a whole set of points that have come up, and I don't want to fragment the discussion by jumping between the different locations we have, so that, I don't want to take away from the good work that's been done in the location. So let's get through the videos, then we'll come back to the discussion at the end. So Abner, just a quick summary of Chirala, and then we can move on to the next one. Thanks.
Yeah. तो जैसा आप लोगों ने चिराला वाली वीडियो में देखा कि वहां पर जो सेंटर लगाया है और जो इंटरनेट पहुंचाया है लोगों तक, वो कितने सारे तरीके से लोगों को फायदा पहुंचा रहा है। आमिर हिंदी में बात कर रहे थे, तो आपने सुना होगा आमिर क्या कह रहे थे। उसके बाद जो बात हुई वो ये थी कि किस तरीके से जो कम्युनिटी नेटवर्क्स हैं उनके लिए या तो हमें बाहर से फंडिंग लानी पड़ेगी उनको सेटअप करने के लिए, या कई कम्युनिटीज होती हैं जो इंटरनेट का वैल्यू समझती हैं और उनके पास वो देना चाहते हैं पैसा कि अगर हमें आप इंटरनेट पहुंचा रहे हैं हमारे तक तो हम पैसा देने के लिए भी तैयार हैं, और उस बेसिस पे कुछ नेटवर्क्स चलते हैं। तो यही अभी डिस्कशन हो रहा था कि किस तरीके से हम लोग और जगहों तक पहुंच सकते हैं। क्या हमें उसके लिए और सपोर्टर्स ढूंढने पड़ेंगे, क्या हमें उसके लिए कम्युनिटी को के साथ बैठ के बात करनी पड़ेगी कि आप क्या चाहते हैं, क्या उससे उस मतलब जो आप चाहते हैं कि आप उसके लिए पैसा देने के लिए भी तैयार हैं। हम लोग ढूंढ रहे थे कि किस तरीके से जो कम्युनिटी नेटवर्क है ये आगे बढ़ सकते हैं, सस्टेन कर सकते हैं खुद को, कि बाहर से अगर फंडिंग मान लीजिए रुक भी जाए तो भी ये चलते रहें और उसमें भी कोई दिक्कत ना हो। और Rajneesh, I think I've covered most of it, and I think the next one is Odisha, if I'm not wrong, which is also on the east coast. So Pranita,
or is it the Assam one? I think it's the Assam one.
Okay. तो वापस चलते हैं नॉर्थ ईस्ट। अभी नॉर्थ ईस्ट से आए ईस्ट कोस्ट पे, अभी वापस नॉर्थ ईस्ट जाते हैं। लेट्स गो टू असम एंड सी व्हाट इज हैपनिंग देयर।
इसके ब्लू पोर्ट में से इंटरनेट आउट हुआ, ठीक है ना, और इसके ब्लू पोर्ट में लगा दिए, इंटरनेट इन हो जाएगा, मतलब उसमें से वाईफाई होके यहाँ, ठीक है। जैसे लगाएंगे तो यहाँ पर देखो ये वाला ग्रीन है ना, जो वर्ड बना हुआ है ना, ये ऑन हो जाएगा, मतलब इसका मतलब इंटरनेट चल रहा है।
ये वाला लाइट जो है ना, ये ऐसा बना हुआ ये इंटरनेट का है। अगर ये वाला ऑन है इसका मतलब इंटरनेट काम कर रहा है। अगर ये इस कलर के अलावा ऑरेंज कलर का हो जाएगा तो समझ रहा है कि इंटरनेट नहीं चल रहा। तो ऊपर से जो ये वाला केबल आया ना उसको चेक करना पड़ेगा कि उधर से कोई दिक्कत है।
मेरा संजय बिंदर है। मैं डिस्ट्रिक्ट तो आपको यहाँ पर एजुकेशन सेक्टर या फिर पढ़ाई या डिजिटल सर्विस के बारे में कुछ बताना चाहिए, जैसा कि हमारे पहले कैसे यहाँ पर गांव का माहौल था, लोगों को क्या प्रॉब्लम फेस करना पड़ते थे और हमारे आगे क्या एक्सपेक्टेशन है, फोटो भी बनाना या कुछ भी ऑनलाइन काम करना। तो अभी सब कुछ तो ऑनलाइन ही होता है, लेकिन पहले हम लोग बहुत प्रॉब्लम में थे, तो यहाँ से बहुत दूर जाना पड़ता था हमको। अभी उतना ये सेंटर खुलने के बाद हम लोग को उतना प्रॉब्लम नहीं हो रहा है।
Student is coming, you can see over here. This is the CL center of Margera Tea Estate and the student kuntu college? Margera College. Ki naam? College to? Margera College. What's your name? Noenla. Junu. And what's your name? Devika. So this is the form of Simon of what's name? Marshall Nag. Gender. So your father name is Marshall Nag, na? Junul Nag. So he is applying for this one. And the internet connection is going on.
I think, may I play the video once again? I think we were facing some network issues. Just
We need to set up a CN there then, by the looks of it.
Yeah. Just give me 1 second.
ये देखिए इसके व्यू पोर्ट पे से इंटरनेट आउट हुआ, ठीक है ना, और इस व्यू पोर्ट पे लगा इंटरनेट इन हो जाएगा, अरे उसमें से भाई ओके यहाँ जैसे लगाएंगे तो यहाँ पर देखो ये वाला क्रीम है ना, जो वर्ड बना हुआ है ना, मतलब इसका मतलब इंटरनेट चल रहा है।
ये वाला लाइट जो ना, ये ऐसा बना हुआ है, ये इंटरनेट है। अगर ये वाला ऑन है, इसका मतलब इंटरनेट काम करता है। अगर ये इस कलर के अलावा ऑरेंज कलर का हो जाएगा, समझ रहे हैं इंटरनेट नहीं चल रहा। सो ऊपर से जो ये वाला केबल आया ना, चेक करना पड़ेगा कि इधर से दिखता है।
नमस्कार, मेरा नाम संजीव इंदर है, मैं स्टूडेंट डिस्ट्रिक्ट का नाम। तो आपको यहाँ पर एजुकेशन सेक्टर या पढ़ाई या डिजिटल सर्विसेज के बारे में कुछ बताना चाहिए। जैसे कि हमारे यहाँ खुला है, तो पहले कैसे यहाँ पर गांव का माहौल था, लोगों को क्या प्रॉब्लम फेस करना पड़ते थे, और हमारे कम्युनिटी नेटवर्क लाइब्रेरी जो खुला है यहाँ पर, इससे आपको आप क्या सुविधाएं और आगे क्या एक्सपेक्ट करते हैं? अभी जो नया सेंटर खुला है इंटरनेट का, इससे बहुत ही हेल्प मिल रहा है हम लोगों को। पहले बहुत प्रॉब्लम में हम लोग, जैसे कि कोई फॉर्म भरना, फोटो भी बनाना या कुछ भी ऑनलाइन काम करना, तो अभी सब कुछ तो ऑनलाइन ही होता है। लेकिन पहले हम लोग बहुत प्रॉब्लम में थे, यहाँ से बहुत दूर जाना पड़ता था। अभी उसका ये सेंटर खुलने के बाद हम लोगों को उतना प्रॉब्लम नहीं हो रहा है।
Student is coming, you can see over here. This is the CL center of Margera Tea Estate, and the student kundu college? Margera College. Ki naam? College to? Margera College. What's your name? Noella. Junu. And what's your name? Devika. So this is the form of Simon C. of Marshall Nag. Your father name is Marshall Nag, na? Junul Nag. So he is applying for this one. So this is the CL center, and the internet connection is going on over here. The internet connection is going on, and this is busy with the SPs.
Okay, that was slightly better than the first time round, but obviously we still had a bit of buffering and network congestion issues. But I hope people got the gist of what's happening there. And again, I think the common theme, again, what we've seen is, people need to get things done online due to various government policies and procedures, and yet there is nothing available locally. And in this instance where you had in the tea gardens of Assam, where communities literally live within the tea gardens, right? This is the workers who are in that community, and of course my colleagues Sayed and Austin will be here, and they'll speak a little bit more to this. But it's that same common theme again, as I was saying before, that there's a need to do things online, but that online connectivity isn't available. So what are people supposed to do? So that gap continues to exist. So Sayed, can I bring you into the conversation? Are you there? And you and Austin could perhaps speak a little bit to what you've actually done. As I said, the video was a little bit it was a bit congested, so buffering a little bit, so we couldn't get the flow of the video as we would have liked to. But maybe you could put that always so in your own words to see what you've done there.
Okay. Hi, can you hear me?
Yeah, a bit faint. If you could either speak louder or closer to the mic.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. Good morning. I'm from Guwahati, sitting here and talking to all of you in Assam. I was just watching all the videos, and also like the situations around which the community networks is being set up. And also some of the thoughts that are emerging, I'm just noting down, and also like building a case for community networks will continue to be there, especially to advocate around, despite all the major mainstream network efforts that the government is trying to do, including through the latest telecommunication bill that is coming up. That which also talks about many things, but still the need and the urge for community networks will continue to be there, even in a faint network connection. Also, why the community needs to come together to build a case for community network, despite showing a network in their phones and mobiles, but the speed is not there, right? And when you, I think Raj, you talked about also like when everything is being put digitally from the top down way now, because for the government it is getting convenient to bring transparency, accountability, governance, good practices and all. It looks everything from the top, it looks we need it, this is what we are giving. But also to fructify that, to realize those things also happening, actually it is for the good for the government also, benefit of the government and the authorities to also look into the need for last mile connectivity, building case for community networks, supporting the community networks for the government in itself. I think building a narrative around this is very, very important, I feel. And also secondly, the Prime Minister's scheme, the TM1 scheme, which is a last mile broadband network decentralizing program, as of now, it looks more of a commercially driven, employment driven kind of a thing, entrepreneurship driven kind of a thing, that anybody can be a service provider, earn money and get benefits. This is fine, which is fine. But I feel the case should be the other one at the top, is that it is a case for last mile connectivity. The government should also tweak certain provisions in the TM scheme, that scheme to subsidize the last mile connectivity in terms of the lease line that people have to take, so that anybody that you mentioned, the fisherman community or some XYZ could have their own community. Even a school can have a community network, and the college in the remote areas, why can't they have this PM1 hotspot and can connect the community? And I think for that we need to advocate, I feel. For that, the USOF fund is available for that. Now it's been renamed as a telecommunication development fund kind of a thing, the renaming that fund and all, which continue to have it. So in fact, in Northeast, we are trying to map what the USOF has done so far, and what we need to also, they need to look into this aspect of community network. So that was some of the thoughts I've been noting down. But coming back to your point of the Tri Adivasi, this is, of course, as you all know, especially for Jain, and I think especially that this is one of the most Aboriginal indigenous community, and also Assam has produces 52% of total tea production in India, and India is the second largest tea producer country in the world. So imagine if which itself says that Assam is one of the leading, if Assam stops producing tea, then you can imagine what will happen. So Assam as a case for this, and imagine this community, which is 20% of Assam's population and producing the 52% of the tea in India, and contributing to the world economy and whatsoever, and they're still not connected, and the remote areas not being connected, even the basic entitlements are not available. Based on all these conditions and all, we did studies. We did a lot of surveys and studies around this community in the last 2-3 years. Based on that, this whole ideation of an internet roshni, that why we need to have the light of the internet, quote unquote, in the community, because everything is getting digitally connected, and this community also doesn't have a script of their own. They have own Sadri, S-A-D-R-I is a dialect they speak, the whole community, and they don't have a script. And so we also talked to there's a particular tea tribe welfare department also in the government of Assam. We talked to them, what are the issues they're facing and all this thing. So based on all this permutation combination, we designed this program. We just got support from the that ISOC Foundation to the both competitive grant, and now the community is getting the connectivity with the existing mobile network being used, and this internet libraries is being set up. But the whole point is that I think that same network that Amir has already established in other places, and in this place also we have established this network through the mobile network last mile connectivity, and also we are talking about connecting to the nearby schools and colleges as of now. So I think we all know the technology, of course, will be the kind of technology framework, this network framework that is necessary in different contexts will be different based on the last mile reach of the ISPs. Just like in Zero, that is a big challenge, but of course in this district there could be some other options. So that is those things are already there. But what I want to say is that these are some of the examples I feel the tea Adivasi community, and I've been constantly harping on the fact that in India the Himalayan districts are quite huge. Many districts are there, right from the Jammu and Kashmir till northeastern states, and I think these districts are just out of the range of network, and the vulnerability is quite acute in those, and we don't have any data also, by the way, and we don't have any data how the vulnerability exists, network vulnerability, So I think we need to continue to build cases for this community network. And in that case, I think just all of you mentioned also, I am making the community aware that what are the 5 problems or the 10 problems that you're facing as of today could be solved by network, internet, and it could really help you to overcome those problems. Just like fishermen that you think is that an example. So I think making the community understand that your problems could be solved by this also. You don't have to wait for any expertise or any service provider offline and all, but this is also could be a great serve. So that is very important, so that community can understand the need for network in their lives and can build a case for themselves. We need a community network now and coming forward. So I think those are some of the key thoughts, and in this project, people are really benefiting. The panchayat, the local administration is coming forward to help. The labor officers are being connected, because labor department has a lot of schemes online also nowadays. If the department also has, but they are not being able to reach out, and there were a lot of also other, because it is also helping to reach out to the governance system, the community connecting to the governance systems through this network that we have provided in 50 gardens. So I think we are also planning how to build a case for this further, because tea gardens, tea community exists in 20, almost half a dozen districts. Assam has 33 districts. Half a dozen districts are tea communities. So we are also building a case for this kind of networks with the government also, particularly with tea tribe department. We are talking to them. But I think we are committed, and as we are all committed, and ISOC is a front runner in this, and we have to continue to build cases for this community networks, and that is what I think we need to focus more on. That community needs to understand why do we need to have a network for themselves also. So that will really, I think, create more pressure and demand for this, and will put a case to the government also. The office is concerned. That is what I think we should also spend more time on that. I feel. I'll stop for a while now.
Thanks, Sayed. And we'll come back to some of those issues in a while. Austin, did you want to add anything to what Sayed said, or some of your own observations on what you've done?
Yeah, first of all, very good morning to everybody. And I'd like to thank DEF and ISOC especially for giving this opportunity to uh, be a part of a cause and do something for the community which I myself belong. I belong from the T tribe community, Adivasi community. And yes, as Syed sir has said, most of the things he has explained and he has said, but the thing is like Adivasi community uh, have been facing lot of issues. Like if you say like political issues, social issues, like lots of promises has been made to this community, like and which has not been fulfilled. And so when I joined DEF and when I went to the field, the first thing was like from the community, the people when I approached them, it's like, is it another election propaganda? Then we said no, we are not affiliated to any political party. We are from the social organization, and this is for the benefit of the society. So one thing like as Nani also said, and we from the northeast, we know like in Assam, especially the Adivasi community in the tea gardens, they have been always looked upon as a vote bank, as a community with a majority. We can who can be a part, who can help a party to win. So this is the concept which is still there. So when any organization they go and approach this community, the first thing is that it comes to their mind is like, is there any political propaganda or political agenda behind this? So the rapport building, the faith that we have to build among the community, it's a major issue. Uh, and since I am from the community, it became a little bit easy for me to intervene or pitch in. Since I can speak the Sadri dialect, and I am an Adivasi, so the acceptance, social acceptance was pretty much easier for them to accept me. And when I explained them about this project, like what is this, what we are intending to do, yes, there were some issues in the beginning, but gradually they have understood like yes, this is for their benefit. Since the government of Assam, especially, they have launched a portal called Series Portal. Through this Series Portal, all the social entitlements, there's scholarships and funding for the SAGs, women, and other youth. All this is being done through online. And this community, they know about this thing. Like there is some portal or there is some applications which has to be submitted online, but they don't have any platform. Since tea gardens are very remotely placed, and they have to go out of the tea garden for around 8 to 10 kilometers to avail any digital service. And the thing is like Sunday is the only day which is an off for them. So Sundays when they come out of the tea garden, when they go to nearby centers or nearby towns, they cannot guarantee like whether they will be able to obtain the digital service or not. So putting as community's internet library inside the tea garden is benefiting for them, because the very own local youth, the Adivasi local youth, is running the CIL Community Internet Library, and the workers or the community members, they can come to the center at any time of the day or the evening, whenever they want or whenever they are free. So this is one thing which is very helpful for them, and I believe like not only empowering them digitally, but through this project, through this Internet Roshni program, we'll be able to empower them holistically. Since this in Adivasi community there are very social evils or social stigmas, they're still prevailing. So hopefully we'll be able to address them also, and bring about a change where this community can where this community can come forward, and they can feel like they are also part of the mainstream community. And as Syed sir has already said, like about all the policy things and about the greater things that this is we are intending to do. And especially, yes, one more thing, like we speak Sadri language, but we don't have a dialect of our own, no written dialect. We just speak. So we are through this project, we are trying to see how we can promote this dialect, maybe in an audio form, maybe in a video form, where all the schemes or entitlements of the government and other benefits can be translated orally into Sadri, so that the people they can understand. So when something is produced in their own language, maybe it written in a written thing or orally, then the people can accept it more comfortably and it's easy for them to accept. So one thing that we are looking into, like how can we convert or how can we transform all the informations in the local dialect, maybe in an oral form or a video form, so that we'll be able to reach more and more people through this. Yeah, I think this is some I wanted to do this. Yeah, thank you so much. Thank you all.
Thanks, Austin. One thing you mentioned, and thanks for your comments. One of the things that you mentioned really struck me was the fact that there's this feeling of disenfranchisement by people always, right? We talk about inclusion, and in particular digital inclusion, but our biggest issue as a community, as a society, is that we don't have social inclusion, right? Depending on what someone's background or where they come from, that still exists in South Asia in particular, but as well as in other parts of the region and the world. Yeah, thanks for your comments, Austin. Some really good comments there, which I hope we can capture in some of the reporting coming out of this event. Looking at the time, Abner, why don't you give a summary of this so we can do that last video and then come back to this little discussion that I'm hoping to have at the end. And since, Assam is famous for its tea, maybe you can talk about some special teas that are also available there. I don't know. So over to you, Abner, for your summary.
So, थैंक यू. सो अभी आप लोग सबने वो वीडियो देखी कि कैसे इंटरनेट रोशनी जो प्रोजेक्ट है वो आसाम में चल रहा है. सो उसके बाद सैयद यही बता रहे थे कि किस तरीके से इस प्रोजेक्ट पे काम किया गया है, किस तरीके से बहुत टाइम से उन कम्युनिटी से बात करके उनसे उनकी ज़रूरतों को समझ के उन्हीं के लिए ये बनाया गया है कि ताकि उनको फ़ायदा पहुँचे. और यही बात पहले भी हो रही थी, नानी से भी हो रही थी, सबसे हो रही थी कि कितना ज़रूरी है कि कम्युनिटी जो चाहती है वो उसी तरीके से हमारे ग्राउंड के प्रोग्राम बने. और फिर ऑस्टिन बता रहे थे कि किस तरीके से जो टी ट्राइब कम्युनिटी है उसको हमेशा एक वोट बैंक की तरह देखा गया है. ऐसे देखा गया है कि तो उनको लगता है कि कोई भी बाहर से कुछ अच्छा काम करने आ रहा है अगर तो किसी पार्टी से होगा, हमारा वोट मांगेगा. तो ऐसी कम्युनिटी के साथ एक रिश्ता बनाना, उनको समझाना कि नहीं, हम लोग पॉलिटिक्स में नहीं हैं, हम लोग सिर्फ सही में आपके लिए मदद करने के लिए आए हैं, आपको इंटरनेट देने के लिए आए हैं, उनमें ये भरोसा लाना एक बहुत बड़ा चैलेंज था. और चूंकि ऑस्टिन उसी कम्युनिटी के एक पार्ट है तो ये थोड़ा सा आसान हो गया था. एंड मेरे को लगता है ये एक बहुत जरूरी कदम हम लोग लेते भी हैं कि हमेशा हम लोग कम्युनिटी से ही लोगों को चूज करना पसंद करते हैं, क्योंकि वो कम्युनिटी में ज्यादा भरोसा लाते हैं और वो कम्युनिटी का ज्यादा अच्छा चाहते हैं. हमेशा डीईएफ कहीं भी काम करे, हम लोग यही देखते हैं कि हम कम्युनिटी से ही किसी को आइडेंटिफाई करें और वही कम्युनिटी को सर्व करें. तो आई थिंक अभी लास्ट वीडियो देखते हैं. लेट्स गो टू उड़ीसा, जहां पर कम्युनिटी रेडियो चल रहा है कम्युनिटी नेटवर्क के साथ.
Welcome all of you for CNX 2022, and thank you for agreeing to share your experience of community network from Odisha. I will straightforward go to Sheikh Mohammed Niaz, who will introduce his community radio. He will introduce his team.
Myself, Sheikh Mohammed Niaz. I'm running community radio station in Bhadrak district of Odisha. And this is actually a wonderful example for all the community of India that we have started and installed. You can see here in tower we have installed the Wi-Fi local area network. You can see this is the tower. Right now here with me, Sheikh Raja is here, Padmavati Raut, Varsha, and also Ritu is there, who is helping us to do these things. She is Padmavati Raut. She joined Radio Bulbul last year, and now she learned a lot of things. She's learning how to cut the content, because as we all know that radio have the bigger content. And Varsha is here, who is taking care of IVR. So we have two projects right now. This is a local network and IVR. So we are running this one parallel. You can see here. This one is router here. You can see. Okay. And this one is, you can see here for the Wi-Fi.
Yes. Wonderful.
This laptop is we are dedicated for the IVR. This system.
Okay.
This one
and
is for
what does IVR do for you and for the community?
So what we have started with agriculture, education, youth, and special program. We have one number. You can also dial that number from anywhere, and you can listen in 2 languages. One is Odia and another one is in Hindi. So we are uploading particularly for 3 minutes. Like if anybody wants the information about the agriculture, they can. If they want for the education, if they want the result things, this one is Share Bolo web page. You can listen the program, record the program. So here you can see the interesting. If somebody wants to listen only jingles, they can go for the jingles. If they want drama, they can. If they want to listen to only the songs, they can.
So in other words, what you are doing is that you are converting the radio, community radio, into a permanent portal through IVR as a voice portal. So that, whatever program you heard on the radio, you don't have to miss it. Because if you missed it today program, you can just call on this IVR number, and you can also call whether you want to listen jingle or you want to listen agriculture program or you want to listen any of this program in the past also. You can go back and listen any of those programs.
So Osama, just to highlight that this IVR is also running on a local network. So if within a 5 kilometers of periphery, anyone wants to listen through the local network, and if they dial the IVR through call as well, they can also still listen the program.
How do I dial on the local network the IVR?
जो local network के through जो है, एक web page के through है और एक IVR number के through है. तो दोनों मॉडल पे चल रहा है.
Why I have started? Because somebody now, internet will be costlier very soon. What we feel, कि internet costly होएगा, तो हम चाह रहे हैं कि अगर ये हमारा पहला पायलट प्रोजेक्ट स्कूल में हम तैयारी करें, जैसे हम लोग का इंग्लिश मीडियम, हम चाहते हैं कि राइम्स को कैसे वहाँ पे वीडियो डाउनलोड कर सकें, और कोई सा एजुकेशन भी वो लोग डाउनलोड कर, कोई सा मैथमेटिक्स हो, साइंस हो, वो अपने मोबाइल पे सिर्फ एंड्रॉइड मोबाइल होना चाहिए. हम नहीं चाहते हैं कि जो टीचर है उनका इंटरनेट वो यूज करें, वो हमारा इंटरनेट, बिना इंटरनेट से थ्रू इंटरनेट दे कैन डाउनलोड दैट एनीथिंग. हम लोग जो कंटेंट डालेंगे उस कंटेंट को लोग यूज कर सकते हैं. फॉर एन एग्जांपल, वो अगर राइम्स को डाउनलोड करने चाहेंगे तो राइम्स को अपने आप वहां पे स्कूल में डाउनलोड कर लेंगे और बच्चों को दिखा सकते हैं.
So for the rest of you who is actually seeing this program, let me explain to you in one sentence what this CR Bolo community networks, which is enabled with IVR, is. Actually, Niaz is an entrepreneur who used to work with DEF long time back. He went back to his village and he wanted to do something in his village, and he has started a not-for-profit organization called Disha, and then he has started a school locally for children because he's very passionate to make his village children educated. Then he has started a community radio, embedded the school and community radio, and then now lately, just recently, with the help of Ritu, who also worked with DEF long time back, and she is also considered to be a researcher and knowledger of community networks worldwide. She came in to help to bring community network in this Bhadrak village of Odisha, and what they have done very ingeniously is that, because they all know that oral communication is very, very important, they actually took the radio to enable it with IVR technology, and further they have created this community network to benefit the local community, where they have partnered with a local NGO to also bring the community network to that community. Plus they have brought in community network to bring content to bring to the school through the intranet to the local network, and also enabled it in audio manner to broadcast it in IVR. And therefore they are actually taking care of the 5 pillars of development, which is health, education, community livelihood and development, and also government linkages and agriculture, and without violating the local culture and tradition in a oral ways. they are doing this community network in a local manner. It is in true sense a community network which is enabling the audiovisual strength of the local community, and enabling the education system of local community, and also the community development of the local community. Thank you very much for your time. Thank you for responding so fast, and congratulations once again. I'm very excited, very, very impressed, and congratulations once again, and see you soon.
Right. So this was interesting, and over the last few years, we've been doing or trying to bridge these two very important communities, particularly in Asia. So community radio has been around for quite a while, and in Asia in particular. Even in Australia, by the way, where I live, community radio is very popular. I mean, just to give an example, the radio station I listen to every day is actually a local community radio station. Anyway, so and then we've been trying to bridge that gap that exists, because you have the community radio people who know the community, who know what's required at the very local level, who have the local context. And there's always this need to get online, where we see the further opportunities can open up for people once they go online. So it's wonderful to see this. And Niaz, been a long time since I last caught up with you, so it's good to see you online today. And hopefully we can catch up in person in the not too distant future. But as Osama said during the video, the interesting thing here is that that IVR component that they've injected into it, and when I saw what they had done, it just reflected on my own experiences with community radio. You listen to some really interesting stuff that you maybe missed a part of, or you want to go back and listen again. There really is no way to do that, because when the broadcast is over, it's over, right? Very few, if any, are archived at all. So this means of archival is so very interesting, and the fact that one can access it using IVR as opposed to any other methodology. So quite ingenious indeed. So Niaz, do you want to speak a little bit about what you've achieved there, and are there any challenges you faced? We always face challenges when we do these sort of things. So keen to hear what you have to say.
Yeah, hi everyone. After a long time, Rajnish, we are meeting after, I think, more than 7-8 years. So it's nice to meet you, everyone. Yeah, it's very, you can say we got the opportunity to work with community as we have started, and what Osama told in video that we got the challenges because of still we are getting the problem of what Sayyed told, and other they will also agree that still the network is an issue worldwide. So that's the major challenges. We have started these things whenever we want to download something in our schools, so it's very difficult to it's just streaming. So that's why I've started with the schools things, that CR Bolo things, where the teachers can download the things and they can easily show the children in schools. They can easily get the video of 5 minutes, 3 minutes, they can learn. So that is measured. So that's why I've started this CR Bolo things. And the second things everybody missed here, Sayyad is also here and Osama Sir is here. We definitely, if you can allow, I can show the school now. Kids are there in that school, where earlier we used to run the CIRC center. Of the first session, morning session is the school, and second session we run the CIRC center. The center where the Raja, who is we've seen in video, he was just joined. He dropped out the school and joined the CIRC center. He learned about the internet and all things. Now he is handling all the, not only the radio station, also the networking things, content creation. So he's there in schools with the kids and the teachers. So now he's also training to the teacher how to download and all the things that they are doing. So my main motto, the question is here, my one request, Osama sir also told me earlier that Ritu is here. Can it be possible, Rajnish, we can, both radio and internet can reach to the people? We want some equipment where one can listen the radio, and that equipment can also help to use the internet. Earlier we discussed that one. If that can be possible,
Looks like we've lost Niaz.
They can. Hello.
Yeah, you dropped out for a while, Niaz. Yeah, carry on.
We just want one equipment where, radio and the internet they can use in one equipment. Can it be possible? Or someone has also told, if it is possible, then we can reach larger people. Both radio and the internet, we can collaborate that one. And the number two is that can it be possible, where the internet, you all know that in India now internet is very costly, and in future also it will be costly more. So how we can work, where the community is not getting the internet, how we can reach there, they can get the information through community. Like if they want the information, we can we can give them the information through without internet. If it is possible, then we can do. So definitely my only one request, how we can radio and internet, how we can make some equipment where they can reach more, we can reach more people. Thank you.
Thanks, Niaz. And you ask some interesting questions. I think if I give a more global perspective of this, I guess most people tend to think of it from the point that once you're online, you can do anything you want. And, you can even broadcast radio streams online, right? But I get what you're saying. There is a gap, again, that exists at the very local ground level where not everyone has that opportunity due to devices or or even the cost of access, cost of devices, the affordability angle that we always talk about. So, what can be done to bridge that gap? Because one, we want everyone to be online, but on the other hand, that opportunity, there's an opportunity gap or an opportunity cost, maybe I should call it, as well, that exists there. Ritu, do you want to come in here since you've been involved with this project and of course, obviously other ones?
I have one thing to add more here, Rajneesh. I have to just miss the things. And the second thing, why I have started IVR, because we all know that due to internet, in our city, we got 3 rights during the spread of misinformation. So we are becoming the bridge so that people will get the right information. During COVID also, we had played very vital role through our community radio. We reach the people where we have to tell them, they have to hand wash. We have done the narrowcasting. That is number one. Number two, the community radio is facing a lot of challenges during the disaster. So where, we didn't get the electricity for 24 hours or 3 days, 4 days. At that time, what happened? We are unable to broadcast our things. So we are also looking for, solar panel kind of thing so that the router can use, the laptop can use easily. So that is the another things. So thank you.
Thanks, Niaz. Ritu, did you want to add something? Have we lost Ritu? Maybe she's lost the connection there.
Yes. Sir.
Oh,
thank you, Rajneesh. And I think Niaz has hello. Yes. Okay. So Niaz has aptly mentioned all the challenges, but the challenges which I would like to highlight, the one challenge which we all know, that the cost of internet is still high in India. Most of telcos in India, like a Jio, which is providing 1 GB data per day at a cost of $149, which is around $2. And Airtel is providing it $265, which is around $3. It's still expensive for marginalized communities, which is still expensive for whose income is like $100. They will not be able to afford this kind of a high cost of internet. Moreover, the 61% of a language in internet which is available is in English language. The content which is available is in English content. So local people cannot connect with that content itself. The idea behind of setting up this channel as well is utilize the local infrastructure as well as utilize the setting up of the local community-led organization. So there are 280 CRA stations in India, out of which 130 are run by civil society organizations like Radio Bulbul. But these organizations already have a very strong hold in the community, but not being utilized properly, not been optimally utilized. They already, during the time of a COVID, they have done a lot of work. So, but it's not being utilized. So one was the thing which we also learned while implementing this CR Bolo platform. Whenever we have gone there, it was a huge rain was always happening. It's climate security, safety support, but we still do it. We wanted to do it then as climbing up the tower. That's the challenge which we were facing as well. Similarly, we know that we already have a local server, but whether the devices are there, local server setup is the devices are available, we immediately need to buy some laptops, we immediately need to buy certain kind of devices. Moreover, the procurement of devices at a rural region is the one of the major challenge. Whether it can be workable in the, whether it can be, we can procure those laptops or RJ45 connectors are available on the spot or not. So those quality of issue for devices and minimal cables are also one of the challenges that we have faced. We have run around, we spent 2 days in running around finding out the right cable for our thing, and spend around extra 5,000 rupees for identifying those things as well. So the cost of setting up of devices and the cost of setting up a network. Second thing that when we talk about we understood that network is really important, connectivity is important, but do we need internet all the time? But we ask that question ourselves and the community. We need a connectivity with which can enable the communication, which can enable the localized services and enable the localized people to communicate with or without the internet. So that IVR enablement helped us to connect those kind of made a channel between this the school as well as this. Going forward, we were also going to connect the 4 SHG centers. So as of now, if you are I will come to your point of the question that whether when we are setting up this entire network, what kind of challenges we are facing. The 2 major questions which we come on. One, the question whether are we able to optimally utilize the local infrastructure and the meaningful connectivity which we are talking about. Are we able to gain it through this one internet or not? That's the question which we need to ask ourselves, and every time we need to ask ourselves, are we doing that? Second thing, that whether these local channels, whether these localized communities are able to gain some knowledge or able to utilize this infrastructure for their betterment of their livelihoods. Those are the 2 important factors that we are trying to understand this thing. As an outcome of this particular project, we are also looking forward that what could be the cost benefit of this localized solution, which can drive any policy action, that these localized solutions can create that, okay, whether cost benefit of this localized solution can enable some kind of a policy driven approach as well. So these are 2 important aspects.
Thanks, Ritu. Niaz, are you still there? Because just earlier, whilst Ritu was speaking, you were walking around, I think, your radio station, maybe? Can you do that again? Because you were not spotlighted, so I'm not sure the broadcast went to everyone. Niaz, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here only. And I can show.
Yeah, can you do what you did before? Can you do it again and maybe just talk a little bit about what you're showing us through your camera?
Yeah.
It's always good to see something live from the field, as it were. All right, there you are.
Yeah, this one is server. We make this for laptop. This one is router, you can see.
Yep.
Yeah, this one, and this one is another one for the IVR call we can do. So here, actually, we do the work of community radio recording. We do the same thing. We have to upload.
We've lost audio. Niaz, can you hear me?
Just to fill in the same audio, which the programs, CR programs are sometime are around 1 hour. So these small programs which we are cutting it short for a IVR purpose. So these programs are also for a 5 minutes, 10 minutes, and categorizing the different channels.
So she is handling right now the of IVR and also Sona. So here is Sona. So this one is for this cable is for radio things. Here is the transmitter we are using for the broadcast for the radio. You can see the same thing. This comes through from the tower. So we added this both things. If you can allow, I can show the antenna also. I'll just give me the 1 minute. I can show you this one is router. This one is router. So the best part is that we are using our infrastructure of our community radio, and you are using. So I can show in the tower also. We put it that one. If you can allow me, then I can show you also the tower.
Okay, you're gonna walk outside now. All right, so whilst Niaz is walking outside to show us the tower, Ritu, was there something you can fill in while we wait for him? Because, oh, there he is. In fact, he's back now. Okay, we see the tower now.
Just to mention that this tower is a 30 meters of a height, and we do not know that how to the first time people were climbing on the tower as well. Otherwise, the person who climbed the tower and set up due to the heavy wind as well, it was always on a trembling as well. So we had to make sure that okay, we are putting up the when we are putting in the router, it should be fixed at the first go itself. We do not need to climb again and again, and made all equipments, everything at the first go itself. So that was a bit of the challenge for us as well. And from the tower to the one of the school, which is a Disha, we had to make sure that the point-to-point connection is coming up, and the other two schools are also having those kind of things. So it was a first chance and the last chance for us to the setting up the router. Otherwise, there is no. Otherwise, radio towers are not so heavy built where you can climb easily by local people. You need some people for you need a safety measurements, all those things.
Okay. All right. Okay, so thanks for that. It's great to see what's happening at Radio Bulbul. We've got about 15 odd minutes left, so I'd like to just finish this. Before I move to the discussion part, Abner, do you want to give a quick summary of what we heard from Ritu and Niaz, and then we'll move to the final discussion. Thanks.
Yeah, so जैसे आप लोगों ने देखा कि इस आखिरी वीडियो में जो यूनिक चीज ये थी कि कम्युनिटी रेडियो के साथ कम्युनिटी नेटवर्क एक्टिव था। तो नियाज बात कर रहे थे कि क्या हम एक ऐसा डिवाइस बना सकते हैं जो कम्युनिटी रेडियो और कम्युनिटी नेटवर्क को जोड़ने में ज्यादा मदद करे, क्योंकि कम्युनिटी रेडियो के द्वारा ऑलरेडी इनका काफी बड़ा रीच है। तो ऐसी कई सूचना होती है जो हम चाहते हैं कि लोगों तक पहुंचे, लेकिन हम लोग उसको पहुंचाने के लिए कई बार इंटरनेट पहुंचाना पड़ता है। इंटरनेट पहुंचाएंगे फिर वो सूचना पहुंचेगी। तो नियाज कह रहे थे कि कई चीजें हम ऐसे कर सकते हैं कि कोई जरूरी सूचना है, लोगों तक पहुंचानी है, तो क्या रेडियो और नेटवर्क दोनों मिलजुल के काम कर सकते हैं? ये इस बेसिकली इंटरनेट क्यों है? ताकि सूचना जो है सब तक पहुंचे। तो नियाज का ये कहना था कि जब रेडियो के द्वारा सूचना पहुंच रही है, तो क्या इंटरनेट रेडियो दोनों को जोड़ के कुछ ऐसा बनाया जा सकता है जिससे कि सब लोगों तक सूचना पहुंच सके, सब लोगों तक हर इंफॉर्मेशन आ सके। और रितु वही बात कर रही थी कि कैसे वहां पर सेटअप हुआ, कैसे वहां पर अभी टावर लगा, उन लोगों के लिए कितना नया एक्सपीरियंस था ये सब करना, और फिर भी वो लोग इसको कर सके।
All right, thanks, Abner. Okay, so with 15 odd, and maybe I'll take up if we.
I think Fauziya is here. Fauziya is
okay,
here.
So yeah, okay, so we'll bring her in shortly, but first I'd like to bring in Sri into the conversation. So Sri, you've been sitting there observing and hearing and listening thus far. I do realize your background isn't community networks, but of course you've done work in related areas, particular gender gap and gender divide and so on. So maybe if I could say to you that, in a somewhat of an outsider's perspective, what have you seen and heard, and how would you reflect on what's been discussed today?
Well, hi everyone. Hi Rajneesh. I think it's been a very interesting and informative session so far. And I'd like to bring in a very important thing that, DEF is doing great work. As an outsider, that is something that I can, vouch for. Imagine that we are coming from a country where we had the last village to be electrified in 2018, while the first village to be electrified was 100 years ago. And we are still in a country where we are vouching for digital policies, where we say even your identity is digitized today. But coming to the last mile connectivity, there is a long gap and there's a large wide gap. And even the public policies are evolving day by day. The schemes are digitized, but the public policies are still evolving. And this is a wide gap that we are talking about. And just going back to the last case study, which is the community radio. Speaking of which, we do have media dark areas in this country where, there is no internet reach, where there is a lot of a gap in the ecosystem. What could be game changing is having a community radio in those media dark areas. And that could be a very big, game changer for this country, and which DEF could definitely deliver. And speaking of, if we can consider DEF to be making that particular change, and as an alternative infra, why not? Why not? I mean, it is already, there is a proof of concept, there is a lot of case studies involved, and whatever we are discussing in CNX, it can definitely be and considered as an alternative infra. And whether it has the ability to be considered for a telco level adoption, it can definitely complement, but it cannot replace. You know what I'm saying, right? So we can definitely consider it to complement the kind of work that is really needed, but it cannot replace the existing things though. Now, I think the community network is the most, especially the CIRC network that we are talking about of DEF, is the most successful parts or the most successful project of DEF. And even if you go to some other smart village concepts or anything that we are talking about, right? It does not have the kind of the combination of connecting the dots which DEF is doing today, where DEF is not just bringing in infra, it's also bringing in resources, project kits, it's also bringing in knowledge, which is really vital to, the development of the community as such. So if we look at it, in terms of bringing about the kind of infra, I think it's not just the infra, it's also about bringing in a change as a social impact. And it is also crucial because I come from the gender digital divide, and I also speak about a lot of gender equalities and other things. I think this is also vital for, bringing out the people who have never been online to use this particular infrastructure, and also gaining access to those resources. And definitely this is a valid case to be considered for a telco level adoption, where it can complement it, and also where, we can consider it to be an alternative infra. I think Jane made a very good point saying that each and every telcos, whether you go to AT&T or whether you go to Airtel or everybody, they do not have flexible commercial models, right? I mean, they're all having their own limitations in terms of infra, in terms of, what they can adapt to or what they can bring onto the table. And at the same time, we also need to understand that we need somebody on ground who has already done their proof of concepts. India is a vast country where you have geographical challenges, which we have seen in both the Assam Tea Garden case study, and we've also seen in the first case study of Arunachal Pradesh, right? It's very important to understand the topography. It's also important to understand the weather, and it's also important to note about the thematic conditions, and also about the linguistic, which is the language conditions as well. And DEF has understood that pretty well. So yes, I think, we could definitely look at it as an alternative infra, and as an overall game changer in connecting the dots to implement this in the present scenario, and to take it to the next level. Yes, Rajneesh.
Okay, thanks, Sri. So you mentioned something about alternative infrastructure. I'll come back to that in a little moment. But prior to that, you mentioned the gender side of things, and I see Fawzia has been able to join us now. So Fawzia, could I bring you in, because you've been doing some work, particularly involving women in some of these projects and getting them involved. Can you, if you can hear me and if you are able to speak, Fawzia, could you speak a little bit to what you've been doing? And how do you think that's bringing about change? Because, from many of our speakers earlier, we had we all realize this, that, there are cultural and social constraints that come into play in many of the localities, particularly in rural and underserved areas. So maybe you can speak a little bit about some of those challenges you may have faced, and what you are doing to ensure that, women are included in all that we do, because, so often, unfortunately, they get left behind due to various reasons.
Hi, जब ट्रेनिंग हमारी होती है तो ट्रेनिंग में एग्जैक्टली मुझे जो प्रॉब्लम आती है वो लैंग्वेज की प्रॉब्लम आती है. अगर कोई हिंदी बेल्ट से है देन वो सही रहता है, कम्युनिकेशन गैप उतनी नहीं होती. लेकिन अगर जैसे साउथ इंडिया में, अभी पौंडीचेरी में ही हमारी ट्रेनिंग हुई है, वहां पे भी यही प्रॉब्लम आती है लैंग्वेज की. और सिंस हम लोग रिमोट लोकेशंस में वर्क करते हैं तो वहां पे लड़कियों को लाना बहुत मुश्किल है. सबसे पहली चीज तो ये हो जाती है कि वो इंटरेस्टेड ही नहीं होते हैं, या उनको नॉलेज नहीं होती है, इसके बारे में तो कुछ पता ही नहीं है. उसके बाद इंटरेस्ट, अगर उन लोगों को बुला भी लिया जाए तो फिर वो लैंग्वेज गैप हो जाता है. लैंग्वेज गैप की वजह से भी दिक्कतें आती हैं.
Okay, so what Fawzia was just saying, that one of the challenges that she's been facing, particularly when she's been doing training for the female community, has been one of language, because India, of course, as all of us know, is quite diverse in terms of languages. So that becomes a problem. So if, for example, she is in the Hindi-speaking areas, it's okay, but when she goes into other parts of the country, it becomes problematic. The second point she raised was that there's also this lack of interest sometimes, and the conservative nature perhaps of some of these communities makes it even harder to deal with. So we have socio-cultural issues at play. Yet, if we look at the wider government level, there's always a recognition that we need to get everyone connected. But then, in a country as diverse and vast as India, we have some very entrenched sociocultural issues that also needs to be bridged. And, I think the current generation is probably working towards it, but it cannot be an overnight change. I think, that's the takeaway here, that, it's an evolution of change that will come about, and that unfortunately takes time. And as much as we'd like to do things overnight in some of these ways, we know it can be done overnight. In fact, sometimes that's not the case at the ground level. Okay, so some interesting perspectives there. We have 5 odd minutes left, and maybe I can stretch that to 10 or so. I want to just bring in all of our other panelists. So Jane, if you're still there, if you could join us. Osama, if you are still awake, perhaps I can bring you in as well. And Sayed, Nani and Sushant, all of you, yes, and I see Amir there too. Let me start with Osama, since we haven't actually heard from you. So first, Osama, maybe a quick reflection on what you've seen today, since today I've been doing your job because you're too busy gallivanting around the world and having a good time, whereas I have to spend my Saturday afternoon doing hard work for CNX. Maybe a quick reflection, Osama, on the 4 locations we had today, but as well, apart from that, I believe you have some news to share with us from the G20 level. Now, India is, of course, chairing the G20 next year. Indonesia was doing it this year. And I believe we've had a bit of success that we can recognize at that international global policy level, where there's been an acknowledgement of community networks in the G20 infrastructure working group's output. So Osama, I'll give you a couple of minutes and then we'll move on.
Yeah, very quickly. Thank you all of you for joining, and thanks for bringing such deep-rooted case studies which are happening in communities who are far away and excluded. My internet is not so good, but I don't know. Am I audible?
Yes,
Audible,
you are. Yes,
audible,
you are.
audible.
Audio is good.
Am I audible?
Audio is good. I think there's probably a bit of a lag. That's why you can't hear us.
Hello, am I audible?
Yes,
Yes,
yes, sir.
are.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I switched off my video. Yeah. Okay, so what we are actually seeing in all the 4 cases and many more cases that we have seen is that the challenges of taking community network to the areas where other telcos are not going, normal internet is not going, and the challenge is more physical and make it reach rather than regulatory or technological or willingness. So that we must know. So in other words, I'm saying is that CN is already on a scale. There's no doubt about it. Just that this scale is not being provided by some profit-making company or some telco or something, but a socially conscious organizations are doing community network. And for example, Tea Garden itself will have 50 community networks connecting in different areas and all that. So certainly we are there. The second part that I want to highlight, and I don't want to only highlight, but want to congratulate every one of you who are involved in community network for a very long time, from Jane to Internet Society to Ritu. You have worked so many years, APC, APNIC Foundation, everything, everybody who were involved. We must celebrate that community network is now endorsed by G20 as an alternative infrastructural possibility, and it's very important because nothing less than G20 who is adopted. So we must celebrate, and everyone that we are doing, it can take things to places. This is the second thing that I wanted to say. The third thing that I want to say is that now that we have reached to a place after work 15 years in the community networks area to connect the last mile and connect the communities, and now there is an endorsement, what do we do next? And how do we work in such a way that the scale can, larger institutional framework? And for that, I would like to take up what Syed was suggesting, is that we should take up state by state as far as India is concerned. We should take small countries by countries as far as the, other countries are concerned, the smaller countries are concerned. Like I was in Indonesia, I see that there is a lot of work happening, but there is a lot of islands not connected. So, we have to basically build this case into going to the officials, taking G20 as a source of inspiration. And this inspiration is not just mention of community network. On page number 80, there is a whole chapter written taking examples of DF's various years of work, and also mention of PM1E. And that's important because when you mention PM1E, it's not about PM1E, it's about government's mention also into endorsement of community networks, and as large country as India. So, we need to really take it forward, and we have onus to the next 10 to 15 years to how do we take it forward. That's very important. And many of you are here who have worked very hard in the past, to bring this community network to this level. I think we need to now sit and make a strategy how to take it forward step by step at a larger scale. And that's all I wanted to say.
Thanks, Osama. And just to reiterate the fact that having this recognition in a G20 official document is very, very good. The bigger question, which Osama's already hinted at, is how do we leverage this going forward? Because we've had a whole bunch of successes along the way, right? As an example, Papua New Guinea, which is an island country in the Pacific, their government also endorsed it. In fact, they even launched a pilot project. In India, TRI, for example, has included language around CNX and its use in India. PM Wani itself, of course, came about due to things like that. And there's multiple examples around the world. But yet, we still go back to the same problem. The intent is there, but translating that into actual action becomes problematic. Now, Sri was mentioning earlier about alternative network infrastructure and how this can be complementary, and which is what the G20 document also recognizes, that it is so one of the terminology that's been used in international forums is complementary access solutions, right? And at the ITU meeting, for example, that's been used, which recently concluded. So the fact that at these international meetings and global fora, that acknowledgement is now there. Obviously, if you look at the local level, you have telecom regulations. At the national level, you have licensing regulations. So there was someone mentioned that there's commercial issues at play. Yes, there are, but we also recognize a lot of these commercial providers, telecom companies, they're not able to service these localities because there's no return on investment for them, right? So this is where complementary access solutions then can play a role. And I think there is room for there to be collaboration between the telecom provider and localized organizations, be it a local NGO, be it a local community, or whatever that may be. The problem, however, is that licensing regulations, policy regulations are not playing their part. There's even, for example, in a lot of countries around the world, there's universal service funds. Some countries have made it available to go and deploy into underserved areas. Again, the problem with that policy is that fund largely is restricted to telecom providers. Yes, that fund is derived from telecom providers. It's a percentage of their revenue or profits, depending on whatever the formula they're using in a particular country is, but usually then goes back to a local telecom provider to go and deploy stuff in underserved areas. And what we've been saying is open that up. Some countries have expressed interest in opening that up. That is not just the telecom providers can make use of it, because knowing a telecom provider always looks at ROI, right? But if we can open up those funds, and some funds, even in India, it's billions of dollars, right? USF funds are a huge amount of money in most countries. And sometimes they don't know what to do with that money because the policies they have in place to govern how the USF is used or USO is used does not exist. It precludes them from going out into certain areas as a result. So I think there is an opportunity here that needs to be pushed through. And the G20 recognition, the discussions at ITU and other fora, at UNESCAP, for example, the Regional UN Commission, we've also brought this up there. They've also acknowledged this. So there is no room at the international policy level. The problem or the challenge, I think, for all of us is how do we scale that or bring it back down to the local level so local governments can do similar. So first, I just want to quickly bring in Jane here. We are well over time, Jane, so we'll have to be quick with this because I'm sure you've been pushing on some of these issues for a long, long time, like I have been. So maybe you have some thoughts to offer here. And then after that, Sayed, I want to bring you into the conversation. So Jane, over to you.
I just wanted to congratulate everyone for getting that language through in the G20 report. That is really important because we can take those examples to the local level. But Raj, I just want to reiterate something you just said about the local level, is we've got to share these stories, share the successes, and share the different examples of when there has been a regulatory success with either licensing, spectrum, financing, or universal service funds getting deployed. Right now in the United States, $42.5 billion is potentially almost going to go to the large incumbent telcos, We're really hoping that the government will move some of the money to community networks. But even in the US, there are 17 states that don't allow municipal networks or community networks. So I think, as Osama is saying, we've got to come together through our different organizations and find a way to create less fear with some of these incumbent telcos. I just don't understand it. There's a way to create cheaper business units and to deploy community networks. We have to take away this fight from the incumbent side to allow these smaller networks to live and grow, because communities can connect from the community out. That's what I'll say.
Thanks, Ant. And, point well noted. Sayed, why I wanted to bring you in, because much earlier you had posted in one of the chat comments something about, the Himalayan region and how there's issues there and how we can work with state governments, for instance. And I think there were some other suggestions by someone on the chat that I quickly saw. So having heard what you just heard, Sayed, how do you think we could tackle, at least from the Himalayan states perspective, maybe, charity begins at home, right? So start at the local level. So what do you think could be done?
So yes, there are two things that, of course, one is your question directly, and the other one is, of course, a thought that I was just thinking of sharing with all of us finally. Of course, for example, in Arunachal, we have started with a case for connecting the Himalayas, right? Connecting the Himalayan communities is the first case of probably an example in Zero Valley we have done. So can we have few more cases in the Himalayan districts, and then go to the respective states, and then go to the USOF, Telecom Development Fund, and build a case for community network, even if it requires changing a little bit the terminology also, because what happens is that community radio, as you know, in India was for long delayed, it was delayed and not allowed because of security and other reasons, because India's vulnerability and all that government also feels. But of course, after a lot of things, in 2006 it has come up, if I'm correct, and then of course a lot of there are guidelines and all. So I think in the same, this thing, the community network, probably government doesn't like also what to hear the word terminology community network, because it may feel something else, because the narrative they may not like to hear. So how we build a narrative where the G20 document narrative, the PM1 scheme narrative, the government of India has launched the scheme. So in those narratives, how can build the cases for this and go back to the government to say these are the cases that are examples, and even it is in your good interest also for the country's inclusion, that the digital India that you have promoting for services connecting. So it is in the interest that this community network also complements that you Rajneesh said, and that is where the scope for connecting with the telcos are also important. So we need to build a case around. And putting the narrative, as Osama said, what is the next strategy that we should have in a country like India? So I see all this as a strategy, and then starting with Himalayan thing, I think I strongly feel personally that we should just take that up very strongly, because even the government of India recently announced that they need to work more in the border areas. And the Himalayan districts are almost all in the border districts only, so that is also another aspect that the government has come out with a strategy also for that. So how we complement, and already DF has started also a program with the Indian Army in the Jammu and Kashmir district, in the Himalayan district. I think these are examples coming up. So how do we build around the Himalayan district is something that we need to build on that. And the last point is that I feel that if you need to tide around or turn around, because sometimes if you need to hit, you need to just speak in that language or the strategy where the authorities may understand very nicely. So I think the PM1 scheme itself is the larger community network program of any government in the global south. I don't know about the global north, but how can build around and turn around that and also make it more of a community network perspective without saying those terminologies, but the philosophy remains, and we go back to the government in tweaking or changing and advocating certain things around the scheme. So So I think DF has a role to play in that, connecting all the other organizations in India who are in this sphere, that how we can make the scheme also look like a kind of the largest community network program in India. If that is necessary, then we need to advocate on certain aspects of the issues that we just mentioned, the issues that we need to bring out and go back to the government. If this scheme can be strengthened this way, this scheme can work wonders if we just make this modification and changes and all. And these organizations are ready to come forward and help you in also making those amendments or changes which can really fulfill the vision of a digital India, quote unquote, and connect the last mile citizen community with services that government of India also wants to have it. So I think if that can be done around this scheme, I'm saying already we have a thing, something given to us. Let us try to build around this, what is given to us by the government, and build around that. And then we go back to the larger G20, other countries, and I'll see now this is one big example in the global world, in the entire world, I think, especially for the global south. So I see a bigger case for building around this Prime Minister schemes, and then going to the government and say, hey, listen, this is what we want to build around the scheme and also help you in that. So I just want to stop it here.
Thanks, Syed. And indeed, if you can demonstrate success, I think half the battle is won, and then you can work on the other half needed to win the war, right? Okay, so I'm mindful of time here. Abner, do you want to do a quick summary of what was just discussed, and then we'll wrap it up for today, because I realize we've stretched it longer than I thought we would stretch it.
तो अभी यही बात हो रही थी कि किस तरीके से पॉलिसी डिसीजंस में हम लोग चेंज ला सकते हैं, ये दिखा के कि कैसे हमारे जो मॉडल्स हैं, हमारी तो जो कोशिश है वो छोटी छोटी कोशिश हम लोग अलग अलग देश के या दुनिया के हिस्सों में कर रहे हैं, लेकिन क्या ये सारे इस सब की कामयाबी दिखाकर क्या हम सरकार को या और बड़ी संस्थाओं को दिखा सकते हैं कि ये एक मॉडल है जो काम करता है, और इसको बड़े स्केल पे ले जाने के लिए हमें आपकी जरूरत है, ताकि जो हम काम कर रहे हैं, मान लीजिए 10, 12, 15, 100, 150 गांव में भी अगर कर रहे हैं, इतने सारे और गांव हैं जिनमें ये काम करने की जरूरत है। तो किस तरीके से हम लोग इस काम को और फैला सकते हैं, सरकार को बता सकते हैं इसके बारे में, और बड़े प्लेयर्स को बता सकते हैं इसके बारे में, उसी सब के बारे में भी चर्चा हो रही थी।
All right, thank you, Abner. Look, I was going to ask everyone to make one last comment, but I think I'll be stressing that far too long. So let's wrap it up here. I think it's been a very interesting session today. In particular, some of the discussions we've had at the end and throughout the course of the sessions today has been quite interesting. One thing I will say is that we always talk about this last mile connectivity, or some refer to it as first mile connectivity these days. But if I go back to my old, I did some work for development organizations a long time ago. One of the terms that really used to work in those days, and I think it still does, is that we shouldn't be talking about we're here to provide connectivity to people or set up a community radio or community wireless network or provide an alternative network on the ground. What we should be saying is we're here to provide socio-economic opportunities. We're here to provide socio-economic change. We're here to empower the communities to live better lives, to inform, educate themselves, improve health awareness, etc., etc., etc. And I think sometimes when we start talking about this, and I'm speaking in a very wide sense, all of us on this call and everyone who's involved in this sort of work, I think we sometimes get a bit tunnel visioned in the terminology we use and how we describe things. Sometimes I think we need to expand the way we refer to things, and some of you have already mentioned how the terminology we use, the language we use needs to be tweaked a little bit, because then that will resonate with other people. Because the other problem we have when we start talking about regulation and policy, there's always pushback, right? Either from commercial players or governments themselves or intelligence and security agencies, as someone mentions about security issues in many parts of the region and elsewhere. So if we choose the words we use and come across as trying to bring about positive change as opposed to being confrontational or being competitive against something, I think that could move the needle a little bit, but as someone else mentioned, that but no one can do it alone, right? It's all of us working together, using the multi-stakeholder model, collaborating across regions and continents for that matter. Jane's here from the other side of the world with us today, and thank you, Jane. And I should also mention Jolie, by the way, who's been broadcasting all of this. So if someone is watching this recording after the event, it's thanks to Jolie and his stellar efforts, who's also on the East Coast of the US, that makes this possible. And again, that in itself is the beauty of the internet, right? We've done this session. We've had people from around the world and around the region and around India participating over the last 6 sessions. All of this has been recorded. It's been archived, and it'll be available due to the internet, hopefully for the rest of history, right? Because, assuming standards remain in place and we can access these MP4 files or whatever they turn out to be, they will be there as record of discussions which happened, issues we brought up, solutions we tried to identify. And then, maybe someone will look at this in 10 or 20 or maybe 50 years time when none of us will be around and say, well, you guys talked a lot of nonsense. Or they'll say, hey, it didn't happen then, but look at where we are now. It's all worked out and everything's all happy days, right? So I'll leave that on that positive note. One of the things I always say to people is that no matter how dark the clouds, no matter how hard it's rained, the sun will always rise the next morning, right? So I think I'll leave that on that positive note because there's so much we can do, and let's smile with the sun, make it happen. So thanks a lot to all of you, much appreciated, and for some of you at all times of the day or night. It's been great this year, as usual, and let's hope next year we can come back bigger and better and hopefully have some in-person events as well. So thanks to everyone and to all the team who made CNX APEC possible this year. There's a lot of people working in the background that you don't see on screen or you don't hear from. Mugs like me and Osama do all the talking and gesturing, but it's all the other people behind us who actually make this happen. Much like community networks, when we deploy them, there's the faces you see, but it's the people behind those faces that actually make things happen. So thank you to all of you. And Osama, let me give you the last word because you've been very quiet today, and let's wrap it up after that.
No, wrapped up. Thank you very much. I am almost falling on. There is no energy. It's 1:49, almost 2 o'clock in the morning here in Mexico. But thank you very much. I think the best part of CNX this year is that we have broken all the record of doing it a series of 5 and a series of 14 case study, which is involving people to show the ground realities and the face. I think that's the best part of it. I think the only other alternative and better could be to meet next year rather than do this. But the point is that even if we meet, we cannot see 12 or 14 or 15 case study like the way we have been watching. So we might have to do some physical and some virtual to continue to do some virtual. Yes, thank you very much to all of you, Jane especially. You are in the same time zone, so all sympathies. And maybe, Jane, I'll see you next week in Washington. Okay, great. Thank you very much, everyone. Ritu, thank you. Austin, you spoke very, very well. Thank you very much. I think you need to bring out more realities of the ground. Amir, thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
And Shri, thank you very much. Syed, thank you very much. Niaz, where are you? Thank you very much. Fauzia, thank you very much. Pranita, sitting behind, sending all the schedules. Thank you very much. And Jolly, my God. You are a rock star, making the world watch us who cannot do this, and so meticulously. So really, Jolly, thank you very, very much. We will and all of you at your own level, you need to tell everybody that all the videos are available on cnxapac.org. At the moment, all the videos are available as short case study. We are also planning to upload the longer case study, because I'm sure those who are involved in the cases, they know that their cases are longer than 10 minutes or 20 minutes or whatever. So we might be loading longer, and then there will be, each case study will also be uploaded as a report, full report. So we are sitting on a very strong content. And let's also celebrate how to take G20 recognition and endorsement to the next level. Thank you very much. Good night and good morning and good afternoon.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Raj.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you all. Bye-bye.
Bye.